Welcome to the Breaking Ice podcast. My name is Josh Ferguson, and today I have this is kind of spontaneous, but the chance to sit down with Kelvin Kotchilea, who is the NDP candidate for the territory in the upcoming election. Nice to meet you, man.
Likewise, and thank you for having me on the show, and appreciate the opportunity to get your audience to know me and my values and where I stand on the political spectrum.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's politics is a crazy world, and I think I think it's important that we have people enter politics who, if everyone stays out of politics, people who go into politics are like more radical. I find so if you find that you're someone who is like not very radical, it's like maybe you should get into politics. The more people that are involved, the more we have a democracy, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, where'd you grow up? Tell me about yourself.
So my home community is in Mexico.
Okay.
And that's in the Kingsford region, 100 kilometers just outside of Yoma. And I'm 34 years old, turning 35 this year, and I spent 26 of those years in Mexico, 4 years in post-secondary, and then about 5 years-ish in Yoma.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you go to post-secondary?
So I did 2 years in Fort Smith.
Okay.
And 2 years in Yoma.
Okay.
And my first focus of study was the Environment and Natural Resource Technology program at Fort Smith, which is a two-year diploma program.
Yeah.
So I did that in 2008 and graduated in 2009, and basically started working for the government, and the government has been the 14 years of service right now.
Oh, okay, cool.
And
what job were you doing with the government?
So I did 10 years in Environment and Natural Resources, and I was a game warden. So I did wildlife and forestry.
Yeah.
And then when I went back to post-secondary for another 2 years, the focus of study changed to financial accounting.
Okay.
So then I was with education, culture, and employment for about 1.5 years as a financial coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved on to management board secretary for about 1 year. And in 2023, when the wildfire broke out in my home community, I was recruited back.
Were you living in your home community at that point, or were you?
No, I was in Yoma.
Okay.
So I hit, I think, the first week of August and the last week of July.
Yeah.
So around August 4 is when Environment and Climate Change, now with the name change, recruited me back.
Yeah.
And I was working from August 4 to about October 6, dedicated directly to fire operations.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I left that, back to management board secretary, I had an opportunity to kind of get back into the ops regime, which, when you sit in front of the computer screen in a cubicle or an office, you do miss the ability to be outdoors.
Boots on the ground, kind of.
Yeah, for sure. So I think when I had the opportunity to come back for environment and climate change, so that's where my last position was with is environment and climate change before the election got called.
Yeah.
So now I'm on leave without pay until the results.
Okay.
And fingers crossed that I'm in there for the win this time around.
Yeah. Well, so tell me about your upbringing. You were raised in Mexico. Tell me about your parents. What are they like?
Yeah. So I grew up in a sober household.
Mm-hmm.
So no drugs, no gambling, no alcohol, no tobacco.
Yeah.
My mother basically almost became, I guess she did become an orphan.
Okay.
At around her early teen years. My grandmother died due to alcohol.
Oh.
She was a residential school survivor. Mm-hmm. So I think, now that I'm older and I know about the legacy of residential school, I can only imagine what she went through.
Yeah, it's a fair amount of trauma there.
Yeah, what she had to endure, and using alcohol as a mechanism to escape it. Yeah, and I think to that point that it took her life.
Sure.
So whenever I got the opportunity to meet my grandmother, so my grandparents from my mom's side are my great grandparents, and with my father I do have both of my grandparents, but I lost my grandfather last year, 2024 in January, cancer.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. So from 1990 to 1998, I grew up in a home that had no plumbing. Was basically a honey bucket for the lack of plumbing.
Yeah.
I remember the kitchen cabinets being made out of plywood sheeting,
Okay.
painted.
Yeah.
Very small modular home. I think maybe 14 feet wide. 2 bedrooms, and when my mother needed to have cold storage, she had to use like a section of the home that had no, I guess like
Not as much heating.
the foyer or the porch.
Yeah.
So basically, that was like a freezer.
Yeah.
So I remember all of that from 90 to 98. So very like poverty, but I guess I wouldn't know what poverty is, right? So that was probably normal to me.
Sure. It was just your reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
pretty humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my dad got employment at a diamond mine.
Okay.
So around 98.
Yep.
And from there, I watched him do the addition on the home, put plumbing in the home, building an addition, building another bedroom.
All with the diamond mine money.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And doing the kitchen, flooring. So like I went from poverty, humble beginnings.
Yeah.
To seeing a hardworking father who made a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
My mother was a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. So she raised, I'm a sibling of 5.
Okay.
So she stayed home and basically.
Are you the eldest?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I look at it today. My parents did make a lot of sacrifice, and I really appreciate all of their hard work, all their sweat and tears, all their hardship that they had to endure. Like we talk about mental health today, but I can only imagine what they must have felt that with something that probably felt way more normal.
But at the same time, yes, there would have been a lot of challenges like that, but also the feeling of growth and the feeling of progress and being able to provide, that would have been, I think, very cathartic.
Yeah. It is very rewarding because I feel like I'm in that same time in my own life. Right?
Okay.
So I.
So your father was around your whole life.
Yeah. Well, if you put in the mine.
Yeah.
Because I'd say like he was probably at the mine for about a good 12 years. So
okay.
I only got to see him 6
months of those
12 years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sacrifices.
Certainly.
And like I have a closer relationship with my mother.
Certainly, yeah. She was around all the time.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe I'm more in touch with my emotions and very like I can sympathize and empathize with people. And I think it just comes from having that close relationship with my mother.
I think it's important for all humans to have really healthy male and female role models. And I was lucky in my life to have parents who were together and hardworking.
Yeah. And same, like my parents are still together to this day. And,
that's awesome.
They're wonderful grandparents to my children. And
how many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Awesome.
3 daughters.
Oh man, having kids is like, it was such a game changer. Like it really is like kind of mind blowing in terms of how meaningful it feels to raise kids.
Yeah. And I think just like you're no longer.
It's not about you.
Yeah.
Which is like I think that's a really important part about maturing is that you realize that it's not about you anymore.
Oh yeah. And it's a good feeling too because it allows you to constantly grow.
Yes, sir.
Like you always want to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm no longer in competition with my neighbor, a family member, a friend. Like I'm always in competition with me.
Yeah.
Because I can't control other people around me.
No, it's a much healthier outlook.
Yeah. And then like if I can always grow in a direction that's healthy for me, then I will always become a better person. And I guess you kind of like a self-fulfillment.
Yeah, it's like don't compare yourself to the people around you, but compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Yeah. And I think I always have that. Especially like the last 5 years is probably like the most amount of growth that I had, and the reason being is because, let's say when I was a teenager, all the way till at least 29, like I was struggling with alcohol, and it only got worse and progressed as I got older, and I was 19 years old, fresh out of post-secondary, got fully employed at the age of 20. Knew how to manage money in the sense that I did a lot of good things with it, but at the same time, a lot of wasteful.
Sure.
Like I look at it today and think, man, if I put that in tax-free savings account.
Well, yeah. If only I had my 35-year-old mind when I was 19. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw this meme the other day that was just like a picture of a baby, and it just said me taking a nap in 1992.
Yeah.
Instead of buying a home.
It's so true. So, but I guess before I get too far back, like I guess we're talking about the upbringings.
Yeah.
I grew up in Bichico. It's a Indigenous community. It's one of the largest Indigenous communities in Northwest Territories.
Yeah, how many people live there?
So right now we're probably sitting just shy of a little over 2,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's fairly big.
Yeah, it's fairly big.
That's like around Norwal's was when it was like at its biggest.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And so they were still doing like the land claim agreement and self-government.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that finally was established and implemented in 2005.
Okay.
So like from that 98, when I said my father went to work in the diamond mines, I'd say from 98 to 2006 is when I remember a lot of culture events, like either a spiritual gathering, annual, the AGM gatherings, celebrations.
These are related to the town gaining self-government.
Probably not. I think it's just more of like seeing the culture at the time.
Okay.
When, we were probably in the midst of gaining back culture revitalization.
I see.
Because a lot of times with residents in school, they try to take away our language, our way of life.
Well, there was a destruction of culture.
Yeah,
over time.
I think maybe in the 90s, I felt like I was noticing a bit more, and I just don't know it's because maybe 98, maybe you're just an 8-year-old at the point, and maybe my memories are a little bit better, and I'm just maybe more mature where I can leave the house and venture off to a little bit more of the community centers.
Yeah.
But
you became a little bit more conscious.
Yeah.
Like started to
say it,
form memories.
Yeah. And then I'd say like from 2005 is when I got introduced to like traditional hand games.
Yeah.
And then I was always out on the land from 2005 to 2009 with they call it the annual Ancestors Trail.
Okay.
Where I did a trip from Gameti to Bichico to Gameti.
What kind of trip?
Canoe trip.
Okay.
A canoe trip that's
Beautiful.
Usually about a 2-week duration.
I love that. I spent a long part of my from when I was 12 to when I was 30. I basically spent working in the canoe world.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful place.
And that it's like one of those things where life is simple.
Yeah, there's something about like your daily rhythm that takes you back to, at least the way that I thought about it was like how more our ancestors lived, just as humans.
Yeah.
Where you wake up with the light and you kind of travel all day and you basically just have to make your meals and move around and then set up shop and go to sleep.
I guess what you would call it almost like the 3 circles: food, shelter, and basically activity. To ensure that when we're doing these routes, there is a goal.
Yeah.
So A to B, and then through A to B, make sure you have enough food, make sure you have a good site for shelter, and your firewood and whatnot.
Yeah.
And good water source, and basically get to your destination and give yourself a
and as the challenges come up, you have to problem solve and figure out how to get around them, and that might be a clever, like a mental thing, or it might be a physical thing, and there's usually a blend of the two. And then the other thing that I think is really cool about canoe tripping is that there's a really obvious feedback loop. It's like, oh, I didn't put my rain jacket away last night and it rained overnight and now it's wet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like there's natural consequences that happen very quickly. So if you're not like organized, it can go poorly quickly.
And, my first trip, which was 2005, I wasn't actually selected to go on that Ancestors Trail. And it was from Gameti to Bichico. And what happened there was that I told my mother that I'm going to be on this canoe trip. She did all this running around, sent basically all of the gear that I need. So she ran around with my uncle, and my uncle basically said, you'll need this and that. So she put it together. I had no input. Shipped it through Air Tendy, and I think at that time it was for like $200 something. I don't know what it'd be today.
Yeah.
And said, I hope you were going, because I spent a lot of time, a lot of money.
You better be going.
Maybe at the end of the day, maybe it was like $800 worth of purchase, right?
Sure.
So come seeing, I'm at basically the boat launch where everyone's going to be leaving, and I was on the standby list. Not
To go on the trip?
To go on the trip.
Yeah.
Not one person backed up.
Okay.
So I was sitting there, probably like a puppy face for sure.
Like, please.
So there was an individual from the community in Gumity who said, you know what? Just jump on my boat, like on my
Sit
outboard.
in the middle. Oh,
Yeah.
in the outboard.
Yeah, in the outboard.
Okay.
We're gonna bring these canoes to an island on Faber Lake, and they're gonna leave from there. So just come with me. We'll see if we can convince them when we get to the island. So I jumped in the boat. We went and hit our first portage, and it was a river.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people
like
went
portaging around the rapids.
Yeah. So a lot of the folks jumped off the canoes onto mainland and walked to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And us with outboard, we tried to do our best to get it through the rapids.
Okay, yeah.
And they asked someone, hey, can you jump in, go grab that rope and tug it on the other side of the river?
Yeah.
And 2 people said no. And then
said yes.
Yeah, so there's like, can you jump in? So I never hesitated. I can't remember what I was wearing at the time, but everything was soaked right up to my chest.
Perfect.
And I basically grabbed the rope, and I think I did, at that time, maybe 18 canoes.
Yeah.
Where I basically fit them all through, ran up, and then
you had the right attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then once we got to the island, I think somebody said, well, look, I asked him to go jump in that water so he can get the canoes through. He never hesitated. That's the type of person you're going to want on this trip.
That was voluntary self-sacrifice.
Yeah. So I feel like that was a game changer in a sense that with that trip, I probably felt, more alive with my culture. And I think the love for the land came from that trip. Mm-hmm. And that's why I went into environment and natural resources.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I really did enjoy was the traditional hand games, which is a very popular game now today.
Yeah.
And, I've been participating in that for a good 20 years
That's
now.
cool. I spent a little bit of time filming. I was in Toledo during one of the hand games, and it was so cool to watch. I had no idea what was going on. Yeah. I don't know how to play. I don't know what, but it was cool. The energy was great.
And if you ever want to get kind of like into a bigger, larger environment, Petrico actually hosts one of
the biggest
ones. Yeah, the biggest tournament of the year, in the sense that it's like a big gathering hub. Mm-hmm. And this year we had 62 teams.
Damn.
And 4 playing mats going.
Wow.
And we had the new.
Did each playing mat have their own drummers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
It was just like, if you went in, I think Lawrence Neely actually did an interview with an individual from BC who said the beat, the speed, and how loud the drums were was so overwhelming that he had to step out a couple of times, because when they play in their home province, it's a stick gambling. It's more of a slower tempo and not much drums. Okay. And it's very slow pace.
Yeah.
Where like
this is the case.
So it was interesting to hear another perspective from the culture exchange.
Yeah. That's very cool. My canoeing background had a huge impact on me. It dictated. I went to study outdoor recreation, parks, and tourism when I was went to university. So the spending time in the outdoors and working with people on the land, it changed my life. It gave me direction.
Yeah. So whereabouts did you do that?
I did that in Temagami, so in northern Ontario. I lived in Mexico at the time with my family, and then I would fly up, and it was like a means to keep me connected with Canada. So I'd come up for the summers, and I'd do a 10-day trip when I was 12. And then the next year I did a 3-week trip, and then I did that all the way through until I started guiding and whatnot. But I was just thinking about it. I was like, man, we were discovering canoeing at the same time.
Oh, the same period?
Yeah. Wow. 2004 was
my
first trip.
Of that day.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful thing. I think it's such a good thing for young people to go on, and I think that you have it gives you perspective in terms of what you have in your life, especially when you kind of strip it all away, and then it also kind of removes all the distractions. Like when we do trips at the camp I went to, we don't take watches like the guides do. Yeah, the kids don't take watches, and they don't take cell phones, and they're allowed a camera. But other than that, we try not to talk about the time and use technology and whatnot. And it is such a good reset for them. But yeah, that's so cool. Have you been involved with any of the Ancestors Trails since then?
So because I got employed with the government.
Yeah.
And you know, they only give you so much annual leave.
Yeah.
And then with
2 days.
yeah, and with me being involved with the fire operations during the summer, it was just like it was really hard to fit that in. So basically, that came to an end in 2008.
Gotcha.
As soon as I finished high school and I went on to post-secondary.
Yeah, that makes sense. You kind of get a little bit more going on in your life, and it's hard to find the 2 weeks in the summer.
And then the other thing that was interesting is like, you know, that was all the summer stuff. And then later on in my profession, I actually did a lot of winter travels.
Oh, cool.
So I did a lot of snowmobile travels from Vetrico, like on a snow machine. I left one day out of to Vetrico all the way to Huddle Lake, which is just outside of Great Bear Lake.
Okay. That doesn't sound close.
No, and I think that was about maybe like a good 11-hour drive.
Wow.
On the snow machine.
Yeah.
And we actually did one trip where we went right through.
Oh, sweet.
And
no stopping?
We stopped in the community of Gumati.
Okay.
But very briefly.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to maximize your time, so you can have daylight.
Yeah.
And I think with this one we had the camp set up so it was easy to go right through. But those are like very fond memories because there was a lot of hunting involved, a lot of you know, people that are elders today probably were still a little bit in their peak.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the people I can remember on those trips are now getting to like that elders age where they're, you know, a little bit over 70 and some are pushing 70.
It can be challenging to spend some serious time on the land.
Yeah.
At that point. Yeah.
And then when I do talk to them about these trips, they're like, yeah, I remember when I used to just leave my home and, you know, I can get out there and be back within the same day and I wake up the very next day, I can still do everything I want, but now I go out there and, you know, maybe I need to set up camp now because I'm so exhausted I can't do the same amount of animals that I could do in my prime.
Yeah.
And then when I get home, I'm hurting and I need, you know, a day or two to recover.
Yeah, you need to do so much more planning and so much more, give yourself so much more time in between things when you get older. Like, I remember, even now, I would do that for myself compared to when I was like 22, you know. But it's still possible, but it's on a whim. It's so difficult when you're older. Yeah. That's very cool.
So then, and then in my high school years, going back a little bit, I think maybe around grade 10 is probably when I, you know, started fiddling around with alcohol. Because, you know, when you get into like the high school stage.
Well, yeah, then you have peers and whatnot.
Yeah. And I was always heavily involved in sports.
Okay.
I played basketball, volleyball, soccer, track and field. Basically, I was an athlete. That's why I loved the outdoors, and I was always talented with my hands. But luckily, at the age of, let's say, maybe 12, I guess age 12 is grade 11.
Yeah.
Sorry, grade 7.
Yeah, grade 7.
So grade 7, one of the teachers noticed that I was a little bit different. Like I would, you know, how they keep you separate between essential and applied students. So when I was in a different class, so like say grade 7A, grade 7B, the teacher was like, you know, I don't think he belongs in this class. He's different. He may not have the ability to write, but like his math skills is strong. His speech is pretty good, but his ability to write is a little bit weak in writing. Sorry, writing and reading was like a weak section in my academics. So they moved me to the applied probably in March of that year.
Okay.
So going into grade 8. And I still remember to this day, I sat in the math subject. It felt like it was the very first one when I was moved over. And I was like trying so hard to figure out this question. I probably did 3 out of the 4, but got stuck maybe on the 3rd, but moved on to the 4th. Finished it, went back to the 3rd, still tried to wrap my head around it, put my hand up. The teacher came over, and then before she even helped me, she said, I want to give you a compliment. I said, okay. The fact that you did 1, 2, skipped 3, 1 to 4, and came back to 3, and still attempted, you're going to be different.
That's true.
You're going to be a person that thinks outside of the box. The reason being is because that's the ability to problem solve and manage.
Mhm.
And you actually attempted it before you put up your hand,
Mhm.
seeking an answer.
Mhm.
So you wanted to find this out. And like that compliment is so strong in me because I feel like that was basically the turning point in me going into academics.
Mhm.
Because I don't even know if I was going to go post-secondary at this point, right? Like I'm very fortunate that I graduated at the right age.
Yeah.
So like 17 for high school, 19 for post-secondary, went back the second time for post-secondary just to further, right? Like in order to get the job you want, to get that career you want, you have to go out and work for it.
Yeah,
It's never going to be given.
No,
And I
definitely
saw that,
not.
You know, I saw that with my father. I didn't
Yeah.
see him just wait around for a handout, a subsidy, a grant, whatever that they do today.
I think
Yeah.
that's so inspiring because
Yeah.
it like liberates you to realize that like you're capable of kind of determining your own future, you know.
Yeah, and I
And
like that because I usually tell most people that the only person that will ever stop you is you.
yeah.
The only person that can get in your way is you.
Oh yeah.
Trust me, I got in my way a lot of times.
Yeah. That's actually been a big lesson for me in running my own business because it's like literally the only thing that is like really holding me back is my own imagination. Right?
Yeah.
It's like if there's like a business chance or have an idea, I'm like, I don't know, that sounds kind of, and if I don't do any work on it, it's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's been a big lesson for me in like, because you can like learn a lesson, but then you can like really learn a lesson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you understand what the lesson is, but then you like deeply understand that like, oh, like nothing for me happens unless I do the work.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's hugely important.
And I feel like and I feel pretty successful in a sense of like achieving.
Sure.
I bought my own home at the age of 23. I had my first vehicle at the age of 19.
Yeah.
A brand new Ford F-150. Like
Right.
I don't know how I did it to this day. Like it still mind boggles me. But yeah, like became a homeowner at the age of 23. Basically, was a family man, and you think that things are going your way. Did a lot of domestic travels. Did some international travels with my wife, but come a lot of the time. And then with the career, because being a game warden, it had some cultural impacts. So I feel like there's some conflict in me where I'm imposing a hunting ban among my own people.
I see.
So it was very culturally sensitive, and I think I slowly turned to alcohol because I probably didn't know what to do with that, right? Like,
Yeah. Were you getting like pressure from peers and whatnot that like they felt like you were doing the wrong thing or something like that?
Yeah, I'd say like the few. So one of my instances, I stopped an elder, and I said, "Where's your hunting card?" And then he goes and looks at me and says, "In Chincho, I hunted this lad with my mother, my fathers, my brothers, my sisters, my aunties, my uncles, and my children. 85 years. I never heard one time, where's your hunting card? And here, you're a Chincho. You must not feel too good asking your own people, where is your hunting card?" And it made sense too, the fact that, with land claim, trying to fight for our rights.
Sure.
I can understand the anger, the frustration. And I think with me, like, I'm a very outgoing person. I love community functions.
Sure.
I was well liked among leaders and community members. But I noticed after that, people were slowly, not wanting to just socialize with me.
Sure.
Or, maybe be seen with me because I was seen as like the government.
Yeah.
They weren't mad at me as an individual, but they were mad at the person who's me.
Well, yeah, but I've in getting to know some RCMP officers, I've had them kind of say similar things. It's like the most difficult thing is like, I got into the job to be like of service, and now people don't see me as myself, but they see me as the suit.
The organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think if feel like that's probably where the peak drinking was starting to happen. So like, say maybe it was once a week, and maybe once a week of that weekend, then it slowly turned to 2-3 days, and it's it basically eats up your whole weekend.
Yeah.
And at that point, you do have a problem.
Well, if it eats up your whole weekend, it impacts your week too because you're recovering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and at the same time have the income.
Mm.
But somehow, I always ensured that my priorities were met. Like the fuel tank was full, the fridge was
That's
full.
an important one.
The vehicle is ready and available. I'm not going to be hogging it and driving it. I was very responsible in that sense.
Yeah.
But still, I took time away from the wife, time away from the kids.
Well, if you're time away from the kids, and your partner has to take up that slack too.
Yeah. So I think, looking back at it, like a lot of regrets, but at the same time, I am who I am today because of those good and bad times, right?
Well, as humans, you can't just only have good times. It's not a thing.
Yeah. I say like for me to be so relatable to most people, it's like I know what it is to live at the high. I know what it is to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
I know what it is to be wealthy, and I know what it is to live in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I experienced that full cycle of life.
Yeah.
And I can really feel with people. So once I was around 28, turning 29, I had another elder who went into my office. But this elder,
You're still a game warden at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he actually didn't come to see me. He came to see a business development officer. My office and ITI shared a shared office building.
Yeah.
So we had
Similar to here.
Yeah. So we're basically one section of this complex building in Chicago. So he comes in, says, I'm looking for this business development officer. I said, she actually just stepped out. She'll be back maybe within a half hour. And he said, okay, maybe I'll just sit beside you. So maybe 10 minutes goes by. We slowly talked about trapping. He's telling me a little bit of his, like humble upbringings in trapping.
Sure.
So kind of sat there and listened. And then kind of looks at the time and says, I think maybe I'll just come back another day.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of taps his walking stick, his cane. And then just about gets up, sits down and says, before I leave, I want to say one more thing to you. And he looks at me straight in the eye, like he's probably like we're
same distance here.
Yeah, no, not same distance, but same alignment.
Oh yeah,
But
okay.
just a little bit further back.
Face to face.
Yeah, and he says, I can tell you're not happy. Like I can see it. You're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
You must not feel good with the job you're doing. You're young. You're educated. You can go back to post-secondary and do something different with your life. And I just want to say it. So
that's cool.
Take it however you want to take it. And got up and left. And that was May of 2019. In June of 2019, I applied for a business administration program in Illinois, applied for funding, and everything kind of lined up within the week.
Wow.
So I just jumped on it, did the education leave without pay, left in August of that year, and basically quit cold turkey in January 2020. Was my last drink, January 19, 2020.
Congratulations.
And never had to do anything for it.
You quit game wardening and drinking at the same time.
A little bit months apart there. And I think from that, I had a lot of good highs in my life. Like I think when I was in post-secondary, I said, well, I was 220 pounds at the time. I probably looked like I was late 30s. Like if you were to look at me at that point, I would have looked like I was in my late 30s. I was 220 pounds. Looked completely different aroma. So I said, I want to get my fitness back. I want to have all my grades in the 90s. I want to do a big family trip. I want to have, I talked with the wife and the family and said, does everyone want to relocate to Yellow? So everyone is in agreement. So I said, okay, let's go buy a house in Yellow. And then a new career.
It's a big life change.
And I think within the 2 years, I accomplished 4 out of the 5.
Which one did you miss?
Oh, I did it later.
Oh, okay.
In a later year, but within the 2 years span, I think before I graduated. So when when I made that decision in 2020 to buy a home,
Yeah.
because now like we're in the peak of COVID,
Yeah.
we can't spend money.
Yeah.
So it's a great time to save.
Sure.
So the wife and I, she was the only one working, and I was living off student financial assistance, Clean Show 1 subsidy, and scholarships.
Mhm.
So we saved her paychecks for 1 whole year, and we were able to save up to $35,000.
Excellent. That's awesome.
And then we had enough money for the down payment, so we secured that at the end of March, and the right house came in the market at the right time for the right price for us.
It all aligned.
Yeah. And then same thing with my employment. I lined employment up before I graduated and started networking within the government and got a department to invest in me and give me the opportunity to show my worth and, you know, to take that chance on me through transfer assignments.
Mhm.
So I kind of got that. By the time I was graduating, I was like 195 pounds, and my instructor that hasn't seen me because a lot of it was remote learning said he looked like he did a Benjamin Button. Like you look like you're in your mid-20s. Like I kid you not.
That's awesome.
And I thought you were like pushing 40.
That's amazing.
So, and then so I felt like I had an all-time, you know, gratitude, contentment. Like I think the first time I cried with happy tears, and I just couldn't control the emotions when, you know, I got congratulations on the TA, congratulations on the home, you know, seeing the fitness goal reached, and then the other one was to do a big family trip. So once, you know, we were allowed to travel, my family and I, we went to Orlando, Florida.
Oh, cool.
We spent 10 days in Disney World and Universal Studios.
Oh, that's so fun.
And I think it brought me back to my childhood years. The kids at the time were probably,
how old?
so the youngest would have been 5. She turned 5.
Mhm.
And the oldest, because I had a child prior to my relationship in high school, so she would have been 15. And then my second would have been 7 turning 8.
Okay.
So yeah, so that was the age span, and I had all my family, you know, all the girls and me and the wife, and basically I think that's one of the most fondest memories the wife and I have had today, because I think it was that first
celebration of everything.
Yeah, and I feel like everything felt like it was going my way. And then in 2021, I actually went for the by-election in Malfoy riding, which is in the Clean Show region.
Okay.
So that was my first.
And is this when you got involved with the NDP?
No. So this was the member of legislative assembly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So Jackson Lafferty, who was the member of legislative assembly for my region, resigned and went for the grand chief. So his position became vacant. So I put my name in the race, and I had a couple key people reach out and say, you know, you accomplished so much in 2 years. You know, we saw you put it out there on social media, and it's very inspiring, very motivating, and we need that for our young people. Why don't you put your name for the member of legislative assembly? You know, we can sign your nomination papers for you. Just give it a try. You never know. You might actually get it, and we want someone that can. You know what it was like to overcome addiction. You know what it is to find success. You know what it is to grind, and you don't give up.
Yeah.
And you work very hard. We see it, we witness it, and we want you to do that for us. So I talked about it with my wife, because with it comes public scrutiny too.
Sure.
So it's not always going to be
like you're in the public eye.
Yeah. So I basically asked for her blessings first.
How long? Sorry, just for context. When did you meet your wife, and how long had you been together at this point?
So I met her in 2004.
Okay.
Probably dated from 2005 all the way to today.
Okay.
So we're for a good 20 years that we have known each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and our 2 children together are going to be 9 this year. And
like 15 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then the oldest is 18.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, 34 to 18
That's so cool.
year old. Yeah.
All right, gotcha. So then you threw your hat in the ring for the MLA position.
Yeah. And that was a short by-election, and peak COVID. So a lot of COVID rules.
Yeah.
But I did my community tour. Actually, it wasn't as restricted as the federal, because I think at this point we had more of a territorial oversight on what you were and weren't allowed to do. So you know how like there were almost easing restrictions at the same time, but
yeah, there was a lot of conflict.
like they'll push back and forth between
who's in charge.
Yeah. So I was able to do a full tour, and some of the feedback that I was getting was, you speak different. Your outlook is way different because, you're not talking about a term. You talk about goals that are 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now. Like you're a very long-term thinker, and the way you're trying to tackle stuff like makes sense. And I think it comes back to the ability to problem solve. When that grade 7 teacher said, you went from 1, 2, 2, 4, back to 3, you tried your best to, so that outside of the box thinking.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to be like your typical politician because
Sure.
I don't have a politician's filter. I don't, I'm not going to make a career of it. I come from hardworking and getting stuff done. Like I always have results for anything I do in life. I don't sit on something and not do it.
Yeah.
Like I was always told, don't ever half-ass anything in life because it will be shit quality.
Yeah.
Right? So I was a second place runner up, and after that, there's always that expression where they say, when one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah.
So within a week, I got a call saying, we're looking for a candidate for the new Democratic Party.
Okay.
We were watching your campaign. We liked your platform and your content, and it really aligns with our values. And we're in need of a candidate because we don't have anyone as of yet, and we're going to get election within a week.
And is this? Sorry, this is like a couple years ago.
2021.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the election right after COVID.
Yeah. So then, I was probably given like 2 days to make up my mind.
Yeah.
Because everything was so fast paced.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason, because in order for those 5 goals that I set for myself, a lot of little things.
Yeah. All the small things.
Have to line up.
Yeah.
And like if when they do line up, you feel like there is a greater power out there that's watching over you.
Yeah.
Because if this didn't happen, none of the results couldn't take place. So it really did feel like one door closed, one literally open. So I went ahead, said I would do it, and with that they had their own rules. So no social gathering, no door knocking.
This is federal.
Yeah, no community visits. Okay.
Don't campaign.
Yeah. So we had to be creative. So we started doing with Zoom.
Yeah.
So we started Zoom meeting people outside of Yellowknife, but people within Yellowknife I was able to meet. Surprisingly, we were able to meet. I'm just trying to remember how the guidelines were written for that, but I think it was a little bit different. Like how there's kind of.
It was that time.
Yeah, it was just that time. So I was able to meet the Dene Nation, NDP.
Yeah, you couldn't be at each other's house, but you could go to a restaurant.
Yeah, something like that. So we worked around it, but could not leave Yellowknife.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, I was thinking, how's this gonna pan out? I couldn't leave the north, or I guess I couldn't leave the capital, and I couldn't do any campaign.
Yeah. And this is for a seat that represents the whole territory.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who would be interested in your platform, want to get to know you, to possibly vote for you, who are very far away.
Yeah. So let's say maybe I didn't get the opportunity to reach out to the billboard, to the Gutchin, to the Satu, to the Ditchell, to the Cell Slave.
Yeah.
I come from the Clean Show, so at least I have that name recognition within there, and I actually ran for the MLA, so that kind of helped.
Yeah.
And then, there's the Kecho and the Luzake, which is part of that group, and then the Norsley, which is considered to be like the Yellow. So when I'm trying to look back at it in hindsight, I can't recall how far north I went with the outreaching and how far south. But to my surprise, I won in Fort Simpson.
Okay.
I won in Hay River.
Mhm.
I won in Yelnay. I won 3 out of 4 Central communities. And I was 800 votes shy of beating the incumbent,
Oh wow.
who spent 20 years in politics,
Mhm.
and I was a guy out of nowhere.
And was it a Liberal that won?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Liberal, and then I came the runner-up of 800 votes shy, and a lot of people were like, if I knew how close you were, I actually would have given you my vote because I was trying to be strategic. I didn't think you had a chance in hell of even placing second, and I think you surprised everybody. And if you do it again, you're gonna get the win because people are gonna remember, hey, you were so close. So all you need is just a couple more votes, and you got it. And it's more of like, you didn't win today, but you'll win in the future. And now that I'm on this campaign trail, I do feel that. I do feel that support when I left Yellowknife, as soon as I got to some STEM, Wrigley, Toledo, and now Norman Walls, and then going to make my way to Delaney. There's that sense that, we want to give you the opportunity. We believe you're the best person to be a voice. You're young. You got the ability to relate. You got the qualities, and you want to make a difference. So you have drive. You have fire. Everyone else, they already been in politics. So what is the drive? What is the fire?
Yeah.
What is the change?
It's no different.
Yeah. So I think, and for everything I did, it was always coming from me. I haven't read a script once because it's never authentic. Like, I can't relate to something that someone's gonna put up for me, and it has no meaning because like all the other
you don't use teleprompters?
Yeah, no. But and then I say, I have 4 priorities. My 4 priorities are infrastructure, healthcare, Arctic sovereignty, affordability, and sense of high cost of living. They're themings. They have no meaning unless I engage with the communities. Unless I engage with the residents, because I have to hear what are their priorities.
You need a feedback loop to be able to govern.
And a lot of us, when it comes to party politics, we rely heavily on the party platform.
Yeah.
As the New Democratic Party, the unique thing is that it is a small party. But guess what? If you're a small party, you're very important. If you're part of the big party, you're a bench warmer.
I see. You mean as a candidate?
Yeah. Because they don't have to do anything for you. Maybe they'll give you this and that. But in the day, when you're part of a small party, they don't want to lose you. So guess what? Your priorities become their priorities, and then they have to work to ensure that you get deliverable actions that you want to see.
You mean in terms of forming a coalition or something like that?
Yeah.
Or
even opposition, because you would work with other parties.
Certainly.
Like there's standing committees, like there's all this bureaucratic process that happens behind the scenes that we're not all aware of. But in a day, like something that I would love to have to my name if I was to get elected is like the Mackenzie Valley Highway. It's something that really needs to happen.
That'd be pretty awesome.
It will benefit so many people, and it will benefit the territory as a whole.
Yeah.
And it's very realistic because a lot of it's already done.
Well, I always thought, like, is there a way to justify that expenditure under NATO spending?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, seriously.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's trying to be clever, right?
Yeah.
Trying to use the right language.
Because we need to spend that money.
Yeah. And I think, it helps tourism, it helps mining.
It's affordability, groceries, everything. It's got to happen.
And then you look at the Yukon, they almost literally have that.
Well, yeah.
Where you can get to almost all of your communities.
Yeah.
And they have like a big touristy boom because you can travel.
Yeah.
And from the Nubik, what I was told is like one example that someone shared was, when COVID was happening, we had to quarantine for more days because we had no choice but to go to the Yukon.
I remember when we moved here, my wife had to take an Airbnb in Yellowknife for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's expensive.
It is.
No. Yeah.
and it was actually saved 10 hours of responsibility, and we gotta be mindful of how we use that annually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, when did in your career did you feel like you kind of got involved in leadership? Because clearly you're running for a leadership position that would be kind of leading the way for the territory in some respect. And so, when did you kind of feel like you were developing those skills?
I say back in high school,
Mhm.
I always had leadership skills right back to high school.
With your sports and things like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just in anything I did, I think I always stood out as a leader. I had the confidence, I had the ability to be articulate, being able to relate to people and motivate. So it all comes with just having that natural attributes and traits. So I'd say like I noticed it early on in high school, and I just only got stronger. And when I was a game warden, like you are put into a leadership role right off the get go.
Sure.
So you're forced into it. So basically, I was always forced into leadership roles, and I was always asked, you should run for the provincial government council. So you run for like the provincial.
Did you were never on council?
No.
Yeah.
No. The reason being is that I had some respected leaders who said, if you want to get involved with leadership, make sure you don't struggle with drugs, alcohol, or gambling.
Mm.
The reason being is that you can have a little meeting.
Those are all vulnerabilities.
Yeah. Corporation, and maybe they give you a little pint, maybe a little bit of whiskey, and all of a sudden they give you a little bit of proposal, and you have a gambling addiction. You're in need of money, you're desperate of money, and you love money. Because that's basically the gambling addiction. It's like, I want to get rich.
Yeah.
Right? So a good example is like, if you go to a casino, the more you bet, the more you win. And it's vice versa. The more you bet, the more you can lose. But they never tell you can lose.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh boy, if this number hits, I'm going to be rich. But if it doesn't hit, you're going to be poor. You can lose it all. So I think the gambling aspect is that it leaves you vulnerable. And then the alcohol component is like, people can manipulate you.
Well, sure, but also like it's an easy thing to say like, well, like why should we pay attention to what you're saying if you don't have like autonomy over yourself?
Yeah. So I think if I ran, would I have got in? Of course, 100%. But would I have been effective? No, because I would have had these weaknesses. So as soon as I, found sobriety, 2 years into it, someone asked me again. Now I don't gamble, I don't do drugs, I don't struggle with alcohol. So I'm in the best position of the best version of myself to actually take up leadership. So I can make a change and make a change where I can be consistent. Like I know how to time management. I know how to interact with people. I'm not going to be hurting or sore or hungover or have any of those weaknesses that makes me a weak leader.
Yeah.
So I'd say the timing's there, the calling was there, and I'm up. I put myself out there, and I'm ready.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say is like I'm ready, and I want to do this, and it's not just for myself, but it's more for like my children, future grandchildren. There was a stat that came out that said the birth rate is down and death rate is high.
Yeah, it is.
And when you think of birth rate, it makes sense because if my wife and I wanted to have a child today, can we even afford it?
Yeah, no, these are serious concerns.
Yeah, is there even daycare facilities or a day home? And the high cost of living is so ridiculous. Can I even afford to provide shelter, clothing, food? So of course it's gonna be down because our morale is down.
Yeah.
Like I understand that, and that's sad to think we're in a G7 country. We're in 2025, and then when you think about the healthcare system, a lot of our patients are going to Alberta. It's just like we're in 2025. Don't you think life should have got better kind of like, from 1990 to 98 onward, life was looking good. I must tell you that. And then you go from, say, like when I finished high school to 2005, I feel like now we're going on the downturn on where we're at as not just territory, but as a country.
Mm.
So, but like I say, like I feel like I have that ability to relate to all people just because like I went through all the hurdles.
Yeah.
I went through all the ups and downs. There's nothing that's going to surprise me or take me by surprise.
Well,
I should say,
probably.
Yeah. COVID?
Yeah, well, that's it. You never know what's going to come your way, but the thing that you can do. Like I always say, I was talking to my wife and I was talking to my grandfather recently about this, but I think I mentioned on the podcast, but it's important to make, instead of making your kids safe, to make them competent so that they can deal with the challenges instead of just not have the challenges. You know? And I feel it feels like you've been making yourself competent over your life.
Yeah.
So that you can deal with the challenges. So you will be surprised, but you have the tools to deal with it.
Yeah, true. I think that's the best way.
Or you have the tools to learn about the tools to deal with it.
Yeah. You're always going to learn to adapt.
Sure.
Because you are forced to adapt.
Yeah.
And it's, how people really are reluctant to change.
Mm.
That's when change hurts.
Yeah.
Them because they're willing to change with time. And we all have to learn to use time as your friend rather than your enemy and be open to change. Could be good and bad. But
well, change is usually painful, but it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to what you were saying about your grandfather, because I heard this one saying, and I feel like it's so true, is that, if I'm as successful as I can be and I make life easy for my child won't have the skill set that I have because I didn't allow them to go through their own hurdles.
Oh yeah, I don't think you should make life easy for kids.
No. I think for my children, like they do chores.
Yeah.
We take away screen time.
Mm-hmm.
They're out with me at 6:30, and we're all out the door. They're out the door by 7:30. We're the wife and I usually out the door by going to 8.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a routine. There's a structure, and the reason being is because I want the most successful opportunities for them. And if I make it too easy in the sense that I got you.
Yeah.
Then what is the future gonna look like?
Totally. No, I couldn't agree with you more on that. Just because we're coming to the end of our hour here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it goes by fast. Eh?
Yeah.
So we'll be airing this in about a week from recording time, but maybe tell people where you'll be in the next upcoming weeks from then. You know what I mean?
So today is March 27th.
Yeah, but this will come out on April 4th. So tell them about that after that.
So I think by April 4, I should still be in Yellowknife.
Okay.
And basically deciding which week I like to visit the remaining digital communities and the South State, which is like Hay River, Fort Smith, Fort Resolution, Fort Providence, Kikisa Enterprise. And then I also want to make a trip out to Inuvik.
Mm-hmm.
I may not be able to hit both the communities. I'll probably try my best if I can even make it to Tuck and maybe south of Inuvik. But as
some pretty remote communities.
and because the window is so short, this is only a 5-year election or
5-week
election.
Yeah, that's really short.
Really short, so I gotta maximize, and then I think I'm just gonna finish off in Yellowknife and my home community, the King Show.
If people are interested in following you, or where they can learn more, where should they look?
I'd say look up Kelvin Kotchilea. I have a NDP NWT page, so you can connect with me there, or even send me a friend request. I'm getting a lot of friend requests right now.
You do a lot of Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's the best way because a lot of people do like it. So it's probably like the easiest way to reach out, or kelvin.kotchilea@ndp.ca.
Okay.
So that's my email address as well.
Yeah.
If they wanted to send me some type of invitation or a meet and greet.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been really cool to get to know you, and I appreciate you coming on the show, taking the risk.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Yeah, hope it goes well for you.
Yeah, appreciate that.